Microphone check, 1, 2, what is this? It's the 5'7" assassin in the podcast business. I am your host, Rohan Patra, the Rap Music Plug at your service. The Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV is the remedy to the I don't have anything good to listen to problem. Through in-depth album and song reviews, as well as artist interviews and general rap commentary sprinkled in between on all of what the mainstream and underground rap scenes have to offer, this is your one-stop shop to knowing what to add to your queue, play next, or pop into your record player. Welcome to the show. What is up, family? Reinvented myself, this the machine redesigned. This bar off the intro to Conway's La Maquina perfectly sums up Conway's artistic growth in recent years. After a hot start to his career in 2016 with the release of Reject 2 and GOAT in particular, the Buffalo MC, Conway the Machine, saw himself getting eclipsed by fellow Griselda rapper Benny the Butcher in the time period of 2018 to 2019. As Benny's rep and buzz continued to grow, the light on Conway started to dwindle, as Benny was positioning himself as the supreme lyricist in the crew, with Westside further solidifying his place as the art curator, master orchestrator. So after some good but somewhat aimless projects in this time period, Conway's 2020 saw him rejuvenated, accentuating his boss persona with a certain level of polish that wasn't present in his previous work. He coupled that with a lot of growth and increased introspection in his lyrics as well that really breathed new life into his music. Fast forward to 2021, after Benny's recent Plugs I Met 2 EP and Conway's recent From a King to a God record, and now this album right here, La Maquina, my first key takeaway from this album is that as Griselda transitions further into this commercial space, Conway is much better suited to thrive in this space than Benny the Butcher. The reason for that is that Conway's larger-than-life Boss King persona fits well with this more luxurious, clean sound. Conway sounds so natural and laid back over this type of production. It's the reason why people respond differently to a Conway rapping over a beat like Grace off this album versus a Benny. It's because it's just a better fit. Because Benny's appeal relies more on the hunger and that came from the mud attitude that felt much more at home on those grimy Daringer Alchemist style productions. So the ceiling for a Benny, while it is still super high, just like it is with Conway, I think the floor with Conway over this kind of sound is much higher because an album like La Maquina could have been made in his sleep. That being said, although what we get on La Maquina is a bit of a step up from Plugs 2, I just don't see myself coming back to this album all that much. My other main takeaway from this album is that it's an album that scratches multiple itches. The hardcore, gritty itch on tracks like Bloodshots and Bruiser Body, as well as the more commercial sounding records here like Scatterbrain, Clarity, KD. But I just don't think the impression Conway leaves on La Maquina is nearly as grand and as impactful as it was on From a King to a God or If It Bleeds It Can Be Killed. It lacked the gritty highs like the Lemon and Doe and Damani records off From a King to a God, and the standout moments of introspection that record featured on tracks like Forever Dropping Tears. The personal growth that I was so impressed by on both of Conway's last records are not really present here on La Maquina. Instead, there is just a new dimension added to the mix, which is that it serves a secondary purpose of spotlighting his drumwork label artists. Jay Skis, in particular, plays a significant role on this project, being featured multiple times. And although he did his thing, he wasn't outstanding by any stretch, and I would have preferred him to be replaced by another feature or Conway himself on all but the Blood Roses record, which I did think he did a great job on. The best performance from the drumwork crew was definitely Love the Genius, as she absolutely killed her feature on Sister Abigail. I really find that particularly interesting too, that obviously we know with Griselda, they have Armani Caesar, the female rapper on that label. So it's clear that Conway's really putting an effort to creating a crew and a label that is well rounded and can appeal to multiple different audiences and demographics. When we focus back on just Conway's contribution, though, other than a bit of a regression in the breadth of the subject matter he covers, he definitely did still bring quality bars to the table as we'd expect. Conway is also continuing to experiment with different flows on this album, just like he has on recent projects that I do appreciate, which I think is a critical aspect of his performance that keeps it from being completely stale, especially given how much work he puts out. The flow on KD I thought was really dope, even though it sounds like he heavily drew from the Bodak Yellow flow, but he killed it. Blood Roses 2, I like that little part where he starts rapping really fast. I think that switch up was super well executed and made that track definitely my absolute favorite on the album, honestly. When we talk about the non-drumwork features, I think for the most part they did a pretty good job. 200 Pies saw 2 Chainz drop a much better feature than he did on that guest verse off of Benny's Plugs 2 record that I thought was really lacking. On Scatterbrain, Jid did his thing too, on the high energy Don Cannon produced cut, where his rapid fire flow really set the tone for that track. Conway did his thing, but Luda, on the other hand, although he had a solid flow, man, he really did not do anything for me lyrically. I was certainly unimpressed by his performance. And when we talk about the production, yes, I will say it, that the recent trend in the Griselda crew of gravitating towards these slightly too generic or more simplistic trap-inspired beats is certainly not something that I prefer personally. Bruiser Body, Blood Roses, Sister Abigail certainly toe this line best on this album, this line of giving us a good mix of the hard edge and the polish at the same time. I just think, though, overall, the beats didn't really wow me. Even if you talk about the concluding track here, the posse cut with Benny and Westside, it has this electric guitar heavy beat that, I don't know, it just doesn't really impress me all that much. It's not like any of these beats are particularly bad. They just don't match the Griselda level of quality that I've come to expect. So one way to look at the latest album from both Benny and Conway are to say, look, Griselda's going commercial, and that's what we get. We get projects that fall flat. Maybe so, but with Burden of Proof, From a King to a God, and as well as If It Bleeds It Could Be Killed, those projects worked, and worked really well. What I think a more interesting conversation is, and what I think the real key here is that Griselda's business model has never been attempted or succeeded ever. We've never seen artists drop this frequently, this consistently, for this long. The idea that Conway is maybe running out of musical ideas may seem weak on the surface because he's only been in the game for about 5 years. But when you realize he's dropped 30 to 40 projects during this span, should we really be surprised? I also don't want to knock a guy who's put out more good to great projects in these past 5 years than many rappers will ever accomplish in their entire careers. That being said, I do think Griselda fatigue is starting to be a thing. So unless these guys really want to continue expanding their subject matter like they've already shown on their previous work, their bread and butter style will inevitably become less and less fulfilling as time goes by. But staying in the present here, La Maquina is certainly another solid record to add to Conway's very vast catalog. There are some good moments, especially when Conway is in his more gritty bag, but overall I just think this is not going to be a Conway album that I'm going to go back to all that much. It's one of those projects that, you put on, you pretty much enjoy every time you listen to it, but you're not dying to go back to. That's how I feel about La Maquina. So I give this record by Conway a low 7 on 10. As I detailed in my review of Benny's Plugs 2 EP, I'm a bit more worried about Benny than I am about Conway, because as I've detailed already throughout this review, Conway has already shown that he has the blueprint to succeed in this more commercial lane. All I would hope from him in the future is to go back and dig more deep even into being more introspective and wearing his heart on his sleeve, because he really has a knack for penning those stories and penning those emotions and putting it on wax. So I hope to see that more in the future. But until then, La Maquina, still a pretty good project. So this concludes today's episode of the Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV. I hope this episode gave you some fresh new perspectives on the latest rap releases, as well as a recommendation for the next great rap record to add to your collection. If you're an artist looking to level up your career, getting more gigs, album sales, merch sales, whatever it may be, I would love to help you with that by providing you artist development and writing services. So if you're interested, contact me via email at qlctv.podcast@gmail.com or hit me up via Twitter or Instagram at Rohview, ROHVIEW. I would be honored to lend my expertise and help you grow your career as an artist. And also for regular rap fans that just want to hear more quality commentary on the genre, follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well. For exclusive content and updates related to the show, follow the Rap Music Plug podcast on Facebook to help the show grow and ensure that everyone's listening to the best rap music at all times. Follow the show on the podcast platform of your choice. Make sure you leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts so that the show can be spotlighted by that wonderful algorithm and be exposed to more people. You can find all of this information along with exclusive playlists created by myself by clicking the link that's in the episode's notes. So that's all for today. Talk to you soon. Peace.